Okay, the meeting is started.
Okay, we're good?
Yes.
Very good. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'd like to call the meeting of the Borough Council, Borough Council of the Borough of PEAPACK and GLADSTONE to order. Today is January 24th, 2023, and I'd like Nancy to please read the central notice.
Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the 2023 meeting dates was published in the Courier News and the Burnsville News on December 8, 2022, and posted at the Municipal Complex in the Borough Library. Action may be taken.
Very good. Thank you. Would everybody please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I ask members of the public, if you haven't yet signed your cell phones, please do so out of respect to the meeting. Nancy, a roll call, please.
Councilwoman Dietrich? Here. Councilman Lemma?
Here.
Councilwoman Murphy? Here. Councilman Portello?
Here.
Council President Sweeney?
Here.
Councilwoman Weigel? Here. Mayor Corleano?
Here. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome a few people who are not typically with us tonight. The first, Senator John Bramnick is with us. He came and joined us tonight. Thank you very much, Senator, for being with us. And the second person is, I have to do this, I see somebody in the audience who I grew up with, and we washed dishes together in a restaurant when we were teenagers. So Thomas Connerossi came down from Bergen County because he could not be here at our reorg to welcome me in as mayor. So thank you for being here, Tom. Okay, next I'd like to go to the swearing in of Jill Weigel, and I'd like to ask the Honorable John Bramnick to swear Jill in, please.
I'd like to ask my family to hold the Bible. Actually, my two children. If they can all do it.
Should we bring this center? They're gonna hold the Bible. Okay.
Why don't you stand up and I'll take
We'll put you in a position where you put your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand. That's a comfortable position. Is that okay? All right. And if you repeat after me, I state your name.
I, Jill Weigel,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments
and to the government
established in the United States
established in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties
all the duties
of the office of
of the office of
the Board of Health member.
Oh, that was a
I was going to say, congratulations, because you can do both jobs because it's a small town. And as a council person,
as a council person,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank
and
you.
good luck.
You figured you needed
No, that's
you
okay.
figured you wanted a chance to be fun.
I could have done 10 minutes just on the floor on that one.
Congratulations, Jill.
And I was unable to be at the reorg, that's why I wanted to come up and say hello. And just give me a second, I just want to say.
Would you like to speak for a bit?
I'll be real brief.
Thank you.
And congratulations. Jill, congratulations to the mayor and any other leading council people.
Eric Weigel.
Congratulations as well.
What was it, Eric Weigel?
So as you know, through redistricting, this November I'll be running in my new district, which includes PEAPACK and GLADSTONE. And I want to let you know, as far as I'm concerned, I'm there starting today to assist in any possible way. everyone does have my cell phone. And when I say cell phone, I mean 24/7. I love helping anybody, and I'll be there to assist. So on behalf of myself, my two running mates, Nancy Munoz and Sean Matsukutis, are here to help. So thank you very much for the time. I appreciate it. Congratulations.
Senator, thank you for coming.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I noticed, I'm sorry, I didn't recognize Chairman Tim House, who was also here, so.
No, here I am, Tim House, 20 Hillcrest Ave,
Ex-councilman,
still unpaid.
ex-councilman.
And thank you, Tim, for your friendship.
Jill, can you sign these? Okay, so, thank you. Good night. Okay, moving on, public comments, non-agenda items, 5 minutes per person, no debating, please. Anyone from the audience? Anyone online? Nancy, no one?
There's nobody that looks like they are. No.
Okay, very good. Old business. Anybody have any old business for the agenda? Hearing none, we're moving on to new business, and I'm going to start with this one. So I'm going to hand out a sheet to everybody, which I purposely held until this evening. Yeah. Punch list. Punch list.
You got one?
So, colleagues, I promise this will not take more than 5 minutes, because I'm not looking to discuss this tonight. I'm looking to present this to you for your, for you to all digest, and then we'll come back at the next meeting and we'll act on some of these, and I'll tell you how. As I mentioned in our executive session, oftentimes the term admiring our problems happens, and not by anybody's fault. We oftentimes get distracted from other things. And over the last year or so, I've been making a list of things that I certainly wanted to act on, and I haven't. And we all addressed other things, and we all knew we had to address some of these things. So tonight I am presenting to you a list of long-term projects, which I'm going to read through again, not looking to take any more than 5 minutes. I would like everybody to take this home and digest it, look it over, and email me if you have an interest in taking on any of these projects. I will take on whatever you don't, or I'll take on some of them you do. And these are things I would like to see us address in one way or another. I'm going to briefly discuss them so you know what I'm talking about. And at the end, if you have something you'd like to add to it, please tell me and I'll add it to the list. Moving down the list. Library renovation. My first council meeting in 2014 with GP Kennedy. We sat here and we voted to give our other meeting room to the library. And the room was supposed to be renovated and used for children's. Well, it is kind of used for children's stuff, but the renovation never occurred. 4 or 5 years ago, the Friends of the Library gave a substantial donation to the town to renovate the library. That still hasn't happened. Now I understand that the flooring is deteriorating in the library, presents a potential safety issue, and it is time to get this project done. Okay? I remember sitting through counting numerous land use board meetings where we talked about an addition onto the library and we need more space, and of course that's all off the table now, because prices, for nothing more than prices have gone up. But it is time to get this project done, okay, for the right person to do it. Not as a project manager, we'll hire somebody for that, but to get the project rolling, get a final set of plans, put it out to bid, get a contractor in who does it all and gives us a turnkey, renovated, new, in my opinion, WeWork type library where people can come in and it can be a social thing as well. A rebranding. Amy and I in 2020 started a rebranding project. You're going to see the first of those coming out in walking signs in town. Hopefully they'll be in the next couple of weeks. But one other thing that Amy and I identified was the signage in town, all of our street signs, which are somewhat old. And they work, but perhaps there's money out there in grants or something to make the borough spruce the place up. Do some new signs. I've been in a couple other towns that have been meaning to get back to East Hanover because they're the best ones that I saw that were compliant with federal law and they look really attractive. And one day I'll get back there and take a picture. That's a project I'd like to see done. Some of these projects, whether they're naturally fall to people like roads, that might have interest you as chair of roads. The tennis court repair. We're talking about it for 3 years. The cracks only get larger. I looked at the report that was given us by a rec, and it was just cut and pasted from the last 3 reports saying it's $120,000 and quotes forgotten. We're admiring the problem. we're either gonna fix the tennis courts or we're not. Let's get them fixed. When I did the last police contract, not the current one, we bought out the longevity of the officers, and we now have 4 or 5 employees left with longevity. I personally would like to see us buy that out and get rid of all longevity. That might be something for HR, I don't know. It's time to bring back the printed newsletter. First, I'm going to suggest 3 times a year. I spoke to Nancy about it the other day. She said she would like to assign that to the new administrative assistant that's going to be coming in, and I have no issue with that, but I did tell her that I do think we need a graphic artist to put it together.
We need a volunteer. I think 100 years ago, I was actually the editor of the Gazette, and Dino Rampanelli did the graphics forever and ever. I mean,
We need to take it.
we need to get some, we need to get.
I want it to the next level beyond what was done for us previously. But the bottom line is, the person who's going to fill the administrative assistant is not going to be ready to go on this for quite a while. So in the interim, I would love to have a council member assist in finding a graphic artist to put it together, assist in getting the articles together for the first one. In other words, push the project, get it moving. We talked about a noise ordinance for years. Do we need one or don't we need one? Let's talk about that. If somebody would be interested in taking that. Same thing for a signage ordinance. We don't have a signage ordinance. Perhaps we need that.
A sign. We have a sign ordinance that's not enforceable.
That's correct. So we need an enforceable sign ordinance. Disposition of the Sarah K lot. Are we going to preserve it in whole, or are we going to get it to break off a buildable parcel and keep a pocket park? We need to make that decision and get that onto the Rossi. We talked about after our last chief promotion, revising the ordinance regarding promotions, because we obviously also saw issues with that. When we went through the process, that ordinance needs to be revised and soon. All I'll say on the next one is trails, trails, trails. I have a guest speaker coming in next month to talk to everybody. He is the executive director of the Highlands Commission. And they apparently have great influence on helping trails and grants. So I have him coming. I don't have it exactly scheduled yet. I don't know if it's going to be the first or second meeting. But I've lived here since 2008, and I don't think 10 feet of trails have been added since I moved here. And I like walking on trails, so I end up going to other places to hike or walk. But it's time we get some trails in this town. We have the money, we have grant available, we can do this, and now's the time to do it. I do believe that the first thing to do is get a trails expert in to do an analysis and present us with an option and a plan. An idea I'm not sure if I'm sold on yet is a mayor's blog on the website. I thought about it. I would like some input on that. Before I became a councilman, Don and I and James Heck were on a committee to bring up a website. There was a website, but there really wasn't a website. So we interviewed firms. We hired the current firm, QSEN, that does our current website. And at the time, it was state of the art. QSEN has not advanced anywhere in those last 9 years. And the website, in my opinion, while it looks good to the residents, is kludgy and difficult to update and not user-friendly. We do have an option, but we need someone to spearhead that project. I want to get the property and assets of the town cleaned up. We have stuff upstairs, stuff on the stage, trucks and spreaders and such at the DPW. That all has to be gone. I want the place cleaned out. This is going to involve involvement from a number of departments. We have a lot of volunteers who do great work for us in the town as on committees and commissions. I would like to see us consider a Volunteer of the Year recognition award. When I was in Atlantic City back in November, I went to a seminar on the mayor's wellness campaign, and I bought into it all the way. It's something I would very much like to see in town here. I could probably run it, but if somebody has an interest in doing it with me, I would love it. It's something that time has come for PEAPACK. John and I know this very well. We have John Bruder. We've been back and forth with Comcast 2 years after the contract, more than 2 years now.
We're negotiating with ourselves.
Yeah, we're negotiating with ourselves. 2.5 years. If they don't come to the table, we need to see what recourse we have. It's absolutely absurd that they're operating in our town without a contract. We had discussed this in the past. In making all the appointments this year, I realized how far off track our committees and commissions have become. We have commissions acting as committees. We have committees acting as commissions. We are not following the law. We're not following the statutes or the ordinances. It's time to restructure and clean it up. Coincidentally, there was an article in this past issue of the Burnsville News about Burnsville cleaning up all those commissions and committees. So what I'd like to see done is an analysis of all of them, see which ones we could mind. For example, I don't see why we can't combine environmental and shade tree. They should be one. And there's some others that could be combined as well. We have a finite number of volunteers and resources. We should be making the best use of them. A resident brought this up to me. I don't know if it's necessary or not, other than I have a lot of deer in my yard, but do we need a deer management program again in town? It's another analysis that has to be done. Our state energy tax receipts have not changed here since I became a councilman. $251,009, I think the number is. And there's now starting to be some hearing rumblings on the state, on the NJLM level, that towns need to be getting a bigger share of that. Apparently, the governor allocated an additional $75 million to go back to the towns as part of energy tax receipts. Let's see if we see any of it, but that's an advocacy I'd like to see done. Our zoning officer suggested we have business permits. I'm not looking to collect any fees, but there have been issues where businesses have been opening up in town without having either the right permits or the right sign permits or the right permits to use a building and such. I don't know much about it, but it's something that needs to be explored, whether we need to have a business permit. I'm not one for more government, but there could be an argument for doing this. I'll add a bullet point to your list for everybody. The park house. It's been vacant now for over a year. The building needs literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in repairs. I know what I would do with it, but I'd like us to work on that and get it done. But otherwise, it's going to sit there looking the way it does for another 10 years, just like the Common House did before installed. So I add that to your list. 2 items I would like to discuss immediately at the next meeting are, actually, before I go on to these other 2 items. So, very aggressive list. We may not get it all done this year, but our objective is to get as much of it done as soon as we can, if not all of it. So I'd ask you all to please look it over carefully and write me back, saying I have an interest in this one, I have an interest in this one. I will work with you on it. I'll support you. I'll be your cheerleader. I'll be your scribe, whatever you need. But I'd like us all, including Nancy and her staff, to look at this list and see how we can accomplish getting some of these Mark's punch list or the mayor's punch list items done. Any additions or comments on that?
Mark, I'll just add garden club to maintain maybe flower beds in the park.
Good, Don. Anybody else? Moving on, there are 2 things I wouldn't mind seeing us talk about at the next meeting. One of them is timely, the other one not so much. The first one is currently, we have a substantial amount of money in the Open Space and Recreation Trust Fund. And that's being replenished every year at 3 cents per 100 of assessed value. We've been fortunate in that the last 2 preservations have been almost fully paid for by outside grants. So we're healthy in that fund. I'm wondering, is now the time, and we have to talk about this at the next meeting, to perhaps consider reducing the open space tax from 3 cents to 2 cents. It means $70,000 less in taxes to our residents a year, and we'd still be bringing in about $145,000 a year in open space funds. Our debt is nearly retired. I think we have 2 more years to go, John, on that. About 2 more years to go to $144,000. I think we owe about $300,000, and then that open space is paid off. So I'd like to explore that, because if we do that, that will have to be put into place through ordinance before the budget is passed. And then the other thing we need to talk about, and I see this is being discussed in some other towns, just reevaluating, do we want to keep doing go-to-meeting at every session? It seems like nobody's on it anymore. Obviously, I would want to do YouTube so people can watch the meetings, but is it necessary to have the interactive? I know it didn't work the last 2 meetings, and it is challenging technology, and I know I'd rather Nancy focus on other things if there's no need for it. It would require people to come and speak to us in person. So those are the 2 items I have for discussion. one being more timelier than the other, and we can address those February 14th. Any comments on that? Okay, I'm done. Can I take more comments? Let's move on to miscellaneous discussions and approvals. Facilities usage application from the Knights of Columbus for the gym for their free throw contest. Everybody had the application to look at. Discussion? None? Okay, you have to recuse yourself from that. You signed it. I have no issue with it, and I have no issue with the fee waiver either. So everybody, if you give a verbal consent, we'll just approve that.
Yes.
Yes, everyone? Okay, very good. Next up is a raffle license for Bill St. Bernard's. They're having a raffle at Blairston, is it?
No, at the mansion.
At the mansion, sorry,
At
not
Narrow.
on April 18th. Do you have anything to add on that one, Nancy?
It is just for an American Express card for $5,050. That's what they're doing. This is their 50th anniversary. This is their gala for that, and that's what they're going to be selling the raffle tickets for.
Okay. And is it, John, is it consent okay on this one?
Yes.
Consent from everyone, please?
Yes.
Is that, yes? Very good. I have one item under miscellaneous, it's not on the agenda. Tom Scanlon and I, as you know, worked on getting that drug drop box that's up front where people can drop drugs in. Okay, I thought we'll get a couple pounds worth of drugs. Tom wrote me back and I thought I'd share the numbers with you. Thus far, they've collected 98 pounds in the box of discarded drugs. And the initiatives last year, which were separate from the box, where they staffed the place and people brought their expired drugs down, were 56 pounds. So in the last year, because that box went in within the last year, 154 pounds of unused drugs were collected and properly disposed. So good job on the police department's part.
I have one more for our miscellaneous. In case we need a consensus, I just wanted to double check with the council. So in 2023, our ERI, the Environmental Resource Inventory, is up. The last time we did it was 2013. And at that time, the Land Conservancy did it for us. It's probably going to be around $13,000 to do it. It's part of our master plan. We have to do it. And I basically wanted to get consensus from the council to ask Richard Dodds at New Jersey Conservation Fund to investigate possible grants for us. But I see us using the Land Conservancy for this project.
The New Jersey Land Conservancy is now our current advisor. They reached out to Jamie and myself about the.
Yeah, so I reached out to New Jersey Conservation Fund, asking,
Foundation, which is us.
which is who we use for all of our kind of environment, or not, like land preservation projects, SABC type things, asking if they do this ERI update. They do not, but he did offer to help with grants, and he asked who did it the first time, and that's the Land Conservancy, New Jersey Land Conservancy, who we used to use. So anyhow, I just wanted to basically run that by the council before I told Richard to move forward looking for grant monies.
Okay, great. Consent from the council for Jamie to pursue? Yes. Yes, okay, very good. That's, I'm confident they'll find money somewhere.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was an Anjek grant years ago.
Yes, but the Anjek grants are down to $1,500 now. They get little
Okay,
grants.
much money for that.
Okay, let's move on to minutes. A motion and a second for the regular meetings, December 20th.
So moved.
Okay, comments? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilman Lemma?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Quartella?
Abstain.
Council President Sweeney?
Aye.
Councilwoman Weigel?
Okay, very good. Reorg meetings, January 3rd. Motion and second, please.
So moved.
Comments? Roll call.
Councilwoman Dietrich? Councilman Lemma?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Quartella?
Aye.
Council President Sweeney?
Aye.
Councilwoman Weigel?
Aye.
Okay, very good. Would the council members please look over resolutions 30-23 through 42-23 and advise if any one of them you'd like to see filled. If not, we do a consent agenda. Okay, good. I see another nod, I see another nod. Okay, very good. Consent agenda motion to approve resolutions 30-R-30-23 through R-42-23.
So moved. Second.
Nancy, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Dietrich.
Yes.
Councilman Lemon.
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Yes.
Councilman Portella.
Aye.
Council President Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weibel.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Moving on to 43-23, approval of bills. Does any council member have any item that needs to be pulled for discussion? Seeing none, Nancy, would you read the total amount, please?
$835,234.80.
Very good. Motion and second, please.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilwoman Dietrich.
Yes.
Councilman Lemon.
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Yes.
Councilman Portella.
Aye.
Council President Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weibel.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Let's now go down to council reports. I suspect we're not going to have much this month, but I do have one thing for finance. So I will start out with finance, and the only update I have is I got the final numbers from Gail on Friday. I'm now putting together the budget worksheet, and we'll have that out to department heads by Monday at the latest. And that's all I have for now.
Mark, does it make sense just to update that we'll be looking at a potential RFP for the banking partner?
Okay, great. Why don't you update everyone?
So we're gonna be looking at a new relationship. I don't think we're getting the best value we can out of PEAPACK and Gladstone Bank. There's some recent changes that I think you're all aware of as well. So Mark and I are going to be working along with Dale to make a transition. Well, I think it makes sense to make an RFP to local banks in the area, and then we'll gather the information and see which one makes the most sense to transition.
Very good. Sanitation and sewer, Councilwoman Weibel.
What I mentioned about the resolution here.
Yes, if you'd like to.
Yeah. So we just put together a resolution for the property of Nadar. Their meter is broken, and because of supply chain issues and things like this, they're not going to be able to obtain a new meter for 3 months or more, unfortunately. So the resolution is to average the last 3 years every month. So for December, for part of December.
Yeah, for the majority. So for
Majority.
the first 3 days.
Yeah,
it's working.
so we're going to average the last 3 years for December, become the highest year, and that's what will be billed for. So that activity happened last week, and I'm going to be taking a tour of the sewer next Wednesday. So learn more about my position and get involved.
If Brad asked you to break out Brook Street, just say no.
Okay.
Just say no.
I'll be coming in my working gear.
Right,
So I'm
Brad?
ready to do it.
Okay.
Bring your waiters, Joe.
I'm bringing my waiters.
There you go.
I am.
Thank you, Joe. Jamie, Councilwoman Murphy, Borough Property.
I met, John and I met with Brad last week to kind of go over our own punch list of items, many of which was on the mayor's punch list. So I won't go into detail on any of those projects, but we do have a laundry list of projects. One of the main ones being at the Park House. So look forward to updates down the road.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Councilman Lemma, prior to first aid.
Yeah, so Councilman Sweeney and I were at the kickoff meeting with the fire company. I'll just read in the officers' names for the record. We swore in Chief Ed Badger, this is for 2023, Deputy Chief Brad Fagan, sitting in the back, Assistant Chief Thompson Ross. The administrative officers are President Kingsley Hill, Vice President Jim Kessler, Treasurer Tom Schmoller.
Yeah.
And Secretary Joe Russo. Also, Chief McDermott, who's at the meeting, gave me the report for 2022. They responded to 153 fire calls in PEAPACK Gladstone in 2022.
Okay, Don, you want to go on to police?
Yeah, so the police committee, Jamie Murphy and myself, along with Nancy Gretzker, had a kickoff meeting with the chief. Went very well. Just 2 items of note. One is that the body cameras have arrived. they're setting up the configuration, the policy, and so on. So those will be deployed shortly. And also, I have the report for January, just of interest. There were 2,385 incidents, and an incident could be something like a house check, traffic ticket, or long domestic, things of that nature, but the department is busy.
Okay, very good. Councilman Cortello, Roads and Transportation.
Yeah, so I met with Brad last week and just wanted to address what roads are up and coming, what areas of improvement. So they are working on updating the master list for me, so I take a review of that and see what's in priority. Some items that are on the docket for this year are Hillcrest Ave, Renfro Way, Dewey Ave, the Firehouse Lot, and Willow Ave Section 3, which is sort of beyond Branch Road that connects to Campbell. To the extent that we mentioned earlier about potentially APGAR, that is one we can discuss in the future with the upcoming work, construction to happen on that road. It likely makes sense to hold off on any repaving or sealing on that road, just in case anything has to happen after the fact or during construction. It would be a shame to put funds and resources into that and have to duplicate efforts. So, once I get the updated list from Brad and the team, then we can sort of prioritize and plan for renovations for the city.
Okay, very good. Just a reminder that we need numbers for the budget.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay, very good. John Bruder, legal.
Mayor, nothing to report.
Okay. While we're on John Bruder, I did need to mention something earlier. One of the resolutions we passed was a new contract for our work with John Bruder. And I would.
Yeah, I meant to pull that one.
I know. I thought we were gonna have discussion.
Just in the interest of full transparency, you'll see that we approved a rate, I approved a rate increase for John to $175 an hour. John's rate has never changed since he came on with us 9 years. And I thought that was only appropriate. It's a very modest task, but just in the interest of transparency. But thank you, John, for your service. Just remember our deal on Monday. Yeah. All right, sorry, administrator report, Nancy.
Nothing tonight.
Okay, and I have nothing else from mayor. Mayor's executive summary. Typically when I run a meeting, I always like to recap the takeaways, what people are taking away. I have nothing except the mayor's punch list, which I'm going to ask you again all to work on, and please reply to me on email before the next meeting. Okay? Let's move on to public comments, 3 minutes, agenda items. Any comments from the audience or online regarding our agenda this evening? Agenda items. Seeing no one in our present audience, Nancy, anybody online?
There are people online, but nobody seems to want to say anything right now.
Okay, very good. Does any council member have anything else for our meeting tonight? Seeing none, motion and a second to adjourn, please. Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that's it. Meeting adjourned. Our next meeting is Tuesday, February 14th at 7 p.m. Thank you all.